Heartwarming discovery. He exposed hidden secrets in his wife's bag. The incredible transformation begins. It was an ordinary afternoon in Maplewood, the sun shining a warm glow on the white picket fences, but for Mark, it felt like the calm before a storm. As he closed the garage door behind him, the hug of his children's laughter faded, replaced by a gripping tension swirling inside him. He poured his heart into scrubbing the grease away, all to drown out the thoughts of his own long-buried dreams. He stumbled across a dusty canvas bag tucked away in the corner, a remnant of his wife Laura's past. Curiosity gripped him like a vice. With shaking hands, Mark unzipped the worn zipper. What he found was more than just memories. They were vibrant photos and letters filled with Laura's dreams of becoming an artist. Each snapshot told a story, her painted canvases bursting with color, letters expressing desire and potential that once sparkled in her eyes. It was an emotional avalanche. Tears threatened to spill as he grasped the reality that the woman he loved had laid aside her aspirations, choosing instead the grind of running the diner to put food on the table. His heart tightened as he replayed the quiet sacrifices she made, long shifts and hurried dinners. This wasn't just a glimpse into her hidden self, it was a revelation of everything unfulfilled. The weight of realization pressed down on him. How had he let this happen? He thought of his father's old-fashioned mantra, work hard, provide, don't stray from the expected path. But what of Laura's art? What right did he have to burden her creativity with his traditional views? Before the local art fair, a fire surged within Mark. He knew he had to champion her dreams openly. He stood at their kitchen table, his heart racing as he rehearsed what he would say, the risk of their fragile financial situation wrapped around him tightly. But the thought of Laura's eyes dimming further was unbearable. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. On the day of the art fair, Mark stood before a crowd, the fear of judgment coiling in his chest. As he shared his thoughts, advocating for Laura's talent and passion against the whispers of old-fashioned ideas, he felt the crowd's eyes on him, some snickering, others nodding in skepticism. But he pushed on, pain igniting a rebellion within him. He wasn't just fighting for Laura, he was challenging the very roots of what it meant to be a man, a provider. When he looked into Laura's eyes later, they were wide with shock and raw emotion. There, amid the tension and thrill, they both felt the promise of change. Their lives had been tangled in sacrifice, but now, perhaps love was enough to fuel a long-ignored fire. As they prepared for what lay ahead, an unsteady thrill hummed between them. Would they break free of societal chains? Would color finally grace their lives once more? The answer seemed just out of reach, lingering like a hopeful whisper in the air. Mark woke up the next morning, sunlight streaming through the curtains, yet today felt different. There was a warmth in the air, a quiet excitement that was both familiar and foreign. He turned to Laura, still asleep beside him, her features relaxed and peaceful. It was a moment filled with renewed hope, a breath of fresh air that he craved more than anything. As he lay there, he recalled the night before, the fire in his belly as he spoke of her art, the collective gasp from the crowd as they began to see the woman he adored in a new light. He felt his heart race again at the thought of how he had opened that door for her. Would she take it? In the kitchen, as the smell of brewing coffee filled the air, Mark busied himself, mentally preparing for the day ahead. Today was not just about the aftermath of the fair, it was about the promise of a new beginning. The diner seemed quieter without Laura's laughter ringing around it, a stark reminder of all their tangled dreams. When she walked in, bright-eyed and blissfully unaware of the storm brewing in her heart, she took his breath away. Mark had set out her favorite breakfast, pancakes stacked high, drizzled in syrup, a heart cut from fruit perched playfully on top. "What is this for?" Laura asked, her brow furrowing in confusion as she slid into the chair across from him. "Just a little celebration," he began, trying to channel the confidence he'd felt the night before. "You're an artist, Laura. I want you to believe it." He hesitated, then took a deep breath. "I want to help you find a way to bring your art back into your life. You deserve that." Laura's face flickered with a mix of surprise and skepticism. "Mark, I don't know, it's just a hobby, a thing of the past. We have responsibilities." There it was, the thread of doubt pulling her back. His heart sank, but he pressed on. "But what if we could make it work? I saw your paintings yesterday. They were beautiful, they were you. We can't ignore that talent anymore." Her eyes softened, vulnerability creeping into her expression. "And what if I fail? What if it doesn't go as planned?" "Then we figure it out together," he replied, feeling the weight of both fear and exhilaration. "But what if you fly? What if this is your time?" He reached across the table, taking her hand in his. As Laura's fingers entwined with his, unease gave way to cautious excitement. They shared a fragile smile, the kind that held the promise of something more, something transformative. A desire flickered in her eyes, a spark igniting the need to reclaim her passion. Mark understood that this couldn't just be about art, it had to be about them. They needed to navigate their fears together, to unravel the threads of expectation and weave a new tapestry of dreams. "You know," Laura said slowly, her voice gaining strength, "maybe I can start a new painting. Something for the spring festival. That's the spirit. Let us explore together." Later, as they worked side by side, the kitchen filled with laughter and passion. The mere act of trying was a shift, a joyful rebellion against what once held them captive. But not all was smooth. As the day turned into evening, Mark sensed a shadow lurking. Doubts still loomed high, and whispers of reality threatened to take the joy away. Would they truly have the resilience to make these dreams a reality, or would the weight of responsibility crush them back into silence? He peeked at Laura, deep in thought, her brow furrowed in contemplation. Was she truly ready to embrace this journey? The question hung in the air, a pause before the leap. Would they be able to reconcile their new aspirations with everyday life? As the door creaked, Mark heard the sound of footsteps approaching, an indication that their journey was just beginning. Mark's heart raced as he caught the unmistakable sound of footsteps echoing from the diner door. Each step grew closer, urgency mingling with hope. He glanced at Laura, who was still absorbed in her thoughts, her brow furrowed in concentration as she doodled the first strokes of a new painting. He wanted to wrap her in a bubble of encouragement, to shield her from the creeping doubts that shadowed them both. As the door swung open, it was Sam, their closest friend and a familiar face at the diner. Sam's wide smile cut through the tension, a ray of sunshine that could uplift even the heaviest heart. However, Mark noticed something strange, a flicker of concern beneath his cheerful demeanor. "Hey there. I brought some news," Sam said, stepping inside, enthusiasm swirling around him like confetti. He glanced at the half-finished painting. "Looks like someone is finally diving back in." Laura smiled shyly, fingers still stained with paint. "It's a work in progress," she said, her voice just above a whisper. "Progress is what counts," Sam replied, his eyes sparkling. Yet, Mark sensed a hint of something else in Sam's voice. He wanted to know more, and as he poured coffee into 3 steaming mugs, he felt his anticipation mount. "So, what is this news?" Mark asked, leaning on the counter, hoping to break the slight heaviness in the air. Sam hesitated, looking between them. "Well, I talked to Janet over at the art shop. She mentioned there's an open call for local artists at the community center. They're looking for fresh talent for the cultural fair coming up." Laura looked up, her eyes brightening for a moment before doubt crept back in. "That sounds great, but I'm not ready for that." Mark shot her a reassuring look. "But this is exactly what we talked about. This is a chance to show the world your art, to share that part of you." Sam nudged. "You've got to take risks, Laura. You never know what could come of it. This could be your moment." While Mark felt the flicker of excitement rekindle in Laura, a sense of responsibility weighed heavily on her. "I appreciate it, guys, but I can't just drop everything and jump into an art show. What about the diner? What about us?" Art can be a part of us, Mark asserted, his voice earnest. You're not abandoning anything, you'd be sharing who you are. It'll inspire us. Laura watched him, her gaze piercing and filled with so many unsaid thoughts. I want this, Mark. But what if I don't have what it takes to keep this going? What if life pulls us back down? Mark took a slow breath. This was the crossroads they faced. Transformation was never simple. It came wrapped in layers of fear and uncertainty. He reached out to clasp her hands, grounding their connection. This is the start of something beautiful, not just for you, but for us. We can write the story together, one brushstroke at a time. As hesitant hope began to weave its way back into Laura's expression, the moment felt electric. Yet, even amidst this newfound optimism, was the unspoken question: could they really balance their dreams and responsibilities, or were they setting themselves up for a deeper heartache? Just then, Sam broke the silence with enthusiasm. Why don't we consider making a day of it? Get your canvases ready and grab a few friends. We can brainstorm ideas for your piece. The more support, the better. Mark caught Laura's hesitant smile as she considered the proposal. Maybe it was just the encouragement she needed. He sensed time was of the essence, each moment a step toward something either magnificent or deeply challenging. With a sparkle in his eye, Mark leaned closer. You won't know until you try. What do you say? Her face lit up with a mixture of excitement and trepidation, and just as Mark expected her response, a soft knock on the diner door interrupted them. The sound drummed heavily against the anticipation that hung thick in the air. Mark glanced over, his heart in his throat. Who could it be? Would this be the moment that pulled their fragile hopes apart, or pushed them to take a leap of faith? What awaited them on the other side of that door was uncertain, but the thought of facing it together brought a thrill that overshadowed the fear. He squeezed Laura's hand tighter, feeling the weight of the unknown settle between them once again. Would they truly be ready for the challenges ahead? The knock echoed again, more insistent this time. The world outside felt like it held its breath, and Mark's heart raced faster. I'll get it, he said, his voice barely steady as he stepped toward the door. Laura's eyes followed him, shimmering with a mix of curiosity and concern. As he pulled the door open, the late afternoon light poured in, casting a golden glow. There stood a tall figure silhouetted against the sun, a familiar face both welcome and unexpected. Nina, an old friend from college, a vibrant spirit known for her adventurous soul. She beamed, her presence a gust of fresh air. Hey, sorry to just drop by, Nina chirped, brushing back a tangle of hair. I was in town and thought I'd stop by to surprise you guys. Surprise indeed, Mark exclaimed, stepping aside to let her in. It's so good to see you. Laura's initial surprise melted into a warm smile as they hugged. What are you doing here, Nina? She asked, genuine excitement tinging her words. Visiting old friends and honestly hoping to steal some of your creative energy, Nina replied, her eyes sparkling with mischief. But I also have a proposal for you both. Curiosity flickered in Mark's gaze. Nina could convince a brick wall to dance, and he wondered what she had in store. What kind of proposal? Laura asked, her interest piqued. Okay, so here's the thing. Nina leaned closer, lowering her voice as if sharing a secret. I'm organizing a pop-up gallery in the city, and I need local artists. I thought of you, Laura. You should totally showcase your art. Laura's breath caught for a moment. Really? A gallery? In the city? Mark felt the rush of hope surge again, her reaction pulling at his heartstrings like a familiar melody. Nina nodded vigorously. Yes, it's a small but cozy space. I want it to feel like a community celebration of talent. It's the perfect opportunity for you. Laura's expression shifted as uncertainty clouded her excitement, like storms rolling over a clear sky. But I don't even know if I'm good enough. Nina took a step forward, her tone gentle but firm. Laura, think about it. This isn't just about being good enough. It's about sharing your vision and connecting with people. You have something special to offer, and the world deserves to see it. Mark stepped in, echoing her sentiment. Exactly. Who cares if it's perfect? It's about expressing yourself. You'll only find out how great it can be if you take the leap. The three of them stood together, the diner around them fading into the background as their focus narrowed on Laura. Mark watched as she battled her fears, the expressions on her face flipping through vulnerability and courage like pages in a book. "Okay, I'm intrigued," Laura finally said, her voice shaking slightly. "But what if I let everyone down?" Nina, with an unwavering gaze, smiled softly. "Or what if you surprise yourself? What if you inspire others? You have the power to change how people see art." She took a deep breath, excitement radiating from her. "Your story is worth sharing, Laura. Don't underestimate it." A long pause surged between them as Laura considered their words, hope nudging stubbornly against her doubts. The diner felt warm, cradling them in the possibility of new beginnings. Just then, the coffee pot let out a soft gurgle, breaking the tension. Sam laughed, filling the silence. "Hey, I'm all for self-discovery through caffeine, but you should definitely get some paint on your hands." Laura chuckled, her laughter light yet uncertain, as the weight of their encouragement swirled around her. She thought back to the half-finished piece sitting on her easel, the brush strokes patiently waiting for life to fill the canvas. Maybe this was a chance. A flicker of belief sparked inside of her. But just as she felt the momentum build within, there was a muffled sound from outside, an urgent scream, piercing through the energy in the room, echoing far beyond the diner door. Time stopped, and all eyes darted towards the window. What could that be? The thrill of possibility hung in the air, yet now tangled with a sudden wave of dread. Mark's heart raced again. "What is happening out there?" he whispered, sensing that their day of discovery might soon turn into something wholly different. The unexpected sound loomed over them like a dark cloud, threatening to overshadow the flickering hope that had just begun to shine. What awaited them beyond the doors of their familiar world? Mark felt a chill run down his spine as he hurried to the window, throwing back the curtain. The street was alive with chaos. A crowd had begun to gather, faces etched in fear and curiosity. There were police officers, their uniforms stark against the muted colors of twilight, forming a barricade around something that had everyone talking in hushed whispers. "What is going on?" Laura's voice trembled, filled with a mix of anxiety and intrigue. "I wish I knew," Mark said, gripping the edge of the windowsill as he strained to see further. His mind raced with worry. What could have caused such a commotion in their usually quiet town? Nina stepped up beside him, her eyes widening at the scene unfolding outside. "It doesn't look good," she murmured. "We should find out." "I'll go out and check," Mark decided. He glanced back at Laura, unsure of whether his eagerness to help was wise. In her face, he saw fear mixing with the flicker of hope they had just shared moments before. "Be careful," Laura said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Please." "I will," he promised, stepping back from the window to move towards the door. Each step felt heavier than the last. A new weight settled in his chest, a feeling of foreboding as he opened the door and stepped out into the encroaching night. Outside, the sounds of the crowd washed over him, a mixture of gasps, murmurs, and the faint wail of an ambulance siren in the distance. As he threaded his way through the gathering crowd, dread coiled tighter around him, wrapping him in unease. He caught snippets of conversations. "Did you see what happened?" Someone was hit. The words hung in the air, thick with tension. A group of bystanders parted as Mark approached the police line. His heart hammered in his chest as he glanced at what had drawn everyone's attention: a motorcycle, crumpled against the curb, the metallic frame glimmering dully under the streetlights. "Is anyone hurt?" Mark asked a nearby officer, his voice rising above the low murmur. "Emergency crews are on their way," the officer said, eyes fixed on the scene ahead. "We're still gathering information. Please step back." Words that filled him with dread. He did step back, but his mind was racing, intertwining fear and concern. He couldn't shake the thought of how this might affect him and Laura, but more importantly, how it could touch someone else's life. Mark found himself staring into the faces of the crowd, the worry, the empathy, the connection. These were people from his community. It was a reminder that life could turn on a dime, that their plans, their dreams, could all be swept away in an instant. Just then, he saw someone running towards the scene, a figure familiar yet anxiety-inducing. It was Matt, a close friend from college. His usually vibrant face was pale, filled with worry as he approached them with urgency in his stride. "What happened?" Mark called out as Matt neared. "I got a call, it's Lisa. She was on her way here when I heard." Matt was breathless, his eyes wild with the fear of uncertainty. Mark's gut twisted. "Lisa? Matt's longtime girlfriend?" Thoughts of Laura flashed in his mind, her art, her dreams, all hanging delicately by a thread. Wouldn't it always be someone you know? Someone who could transform their world with a smile, but could just as easily be carried away in the night? "Is she?" Mark hesitated, not wanting to utter the words. "I don't know," Matt replied, panic in his voice. "I just needed to get here." Mark wanted to comfort him, but uncertainty gripped him too tightly. This was more than just their plans, this was life, raw and unfiltered. As thoughts swirled, he felt a surge of determination. They had to do something. They had to be there for Lisa, for each other. With resolve tightening his chest, Mark turned back to the diner, the warm light spilling out into the dark night. He needed to gather Laura and figure out how to navigate through this chaos together. He needed to support Matt, to be part of this community. They would confront this uncertain night as friends, as family. Stepping back inside, he felt the weight of the important conversations ahead. But he also felt something else, a flicker of hope that amidst darkness, they could still share light. "Laura," he called, scanning the diner for her familiar face. "We need to talk." As she turned to him, her eyes filled with fear but also determination, he realized that whatever lay ahead, they would face it together. But doubt lingered in his mind. How would this event change them? What would it reveal about themselves and their worlds? The uncertainty loomed before them, promising a night of revelations, both painful and transformative. But one thing was clear, nothing would ever be the same after tonight. Mark's heart raced as he caught Laura's eye, and in that moment, he knew they had to act quickly. The chaos outside blurred into the background, replaced by the intensity of the situation unfolding before them. "Come on," he urged, leading Laura with a gentle hand on her back. "We need to support Matt." Together, they made their way towards the diner entrance, the warm yellow light a stark contrast to the cold darkness outside. The familiar smells of coffee and freshly baked pie wrapped around them, but it felt foreign now. Anxiety coursed through him like an electric current, dimming the cozy ambience he usually loved. As they stepped out, Laura's hand instinctively found Mark's. He tightened his grip as they approached Matt, who paced restlessly, his face a mask of worry. "Matt," Laura said softly, her voice shaking. "We're here for you." Matt looked at her, relief washing over his features for just a moment. "Thanks. I need to know she's all right." "How could this happen?" A tremor in his voice echoed the fear gripping Mark's heart. "Let us stick together," Mark said, voice steady despite the turmoil inside. "We'll get through this." A low murmur spread through the crowd again, twisting like a knife in Mark's gut. He glanced back toward the bike, now surrounded by paramedics hustling to assess the situation. Every second felt like an eternity. Lives had been disrupted and uncertainty loomed like a heavy cloud. Then, a commotion caught their attention. An ambulance pulled up, lights flashing, cutting through the night like a beacon. The sirens faded, replaced by the soft thud of doors swinging open. A new wave of energy coursed through the scene. People leaned in, hoping for answers, glazing over with hope mixed with dread. What if Matt's voice cracked? Mark could see the walls of anxiety rising within him, threatening to block out any remaining sliver of hope. "She could be all right," Mark said, though nothing felt certain. "Let us focus on what we can do. Maybe we should talk to the police, see if they know anything." He spoke the words as much for himself as for Matt. Mark's mind raced, questions flooding in. What happened? Was Lisa hurt? This wasn't just about them anymore. It was about community, about friendship, the tough stuff. As frantic thoughts interconnected, he spotted the comforting neighborhood faces amongst the crowd. People he had known all his life were here, sharing in this collective fear and worry. It was both grounding and terrifying. "Let us go," Laura prompted, her grip tightening on Mark's hand. They moved towards the police line, the crowd parting slightly to let them through. Each face they passed echoed back memories, shared laughter, small talk over backyard fences, moments warmed by camaraderie. Just then, a voice rose above the others. I saw it happen. A woman stood nearby, pale and shaken. Mark turned. The crowd hushed, all eyes on her, a mix of curiosity and trepidation hanging in the air. They say she swerved to avoid a dog, then there was just her voice faltered, emotion breaking through. I think she's going to be okay, but... The crowd murmured, a wave of hope mingling with fear. Mark felt a fleeting sense of relief, but then the weight of the unknown pulled him back down again. What if she wasn't okay? What if this night drastically altered everything they thought they knew? Matt, did you hear that? Laura turned to him, her eyes wide with a flicker of optimism. Yeah, but what if that but means something worse? Matt replied, biting his lip in frustration. In that moment, Mark knew they needed something more than information. They needed courage to face whatever lay ahead. He squeezed Laura's hand again, a silent promise shared between them. They wouldn't face this alone, none of them would. Let us just hold on to hope for now, he said, trying to inject strength into Matt's eyes. Whatever happens next, we'll be here together. But in the depths of his heart, Mark wondered, how would their relationships shift tonight? Could they survive the reality of life's unpredictability? As sirens echoed again in the distance, a thought struck him. It wasn't just about facing the storm. It was also about embracing the calm that would inevitably follow. Then suddenly, someone burst through the crowd, breathless. They had news. Mark's heart dropped. What awaited them? The crowd shifted, anticipation thick in the air. A man, face flushed and frantic, pushed his way closer, desperation in his eyes. Excuse me. I have information. His voice trembled yet carried an urgency that compelled everyone to listen. Matt stepped forward, his posture tense as he eyed the man closely. What do you know? The man glanced around, quickly assessing the group before settling on Matt. I saw a girl get out of the ambulance. She looked like she was hurt, but she was conscious. I think it might be her. Mark's heart slammed against his ribcage. A flicker of hope ignited, but with it came an avalanche of anxiety. Where did you see her? Back near the entrance of the hospital. I overheard the nurses. She's in stable condition, but his voice trailed off, uncertainty creeping in. But what? Laura pressed, her eyes searching his face for reassurance, as if that alone could change the outcome. She needs someone, he finally uttered, his voice dropping to a whisper. Family or friends? If she wakes up, Matt swayed slightly, clutching the hem of his shirt as he absorbed that information. She's awake? Hope began to flicker stronger, battling the heavy grief that had settled in his chest. Did they say anything else? Is she okay? The man shook his head. Just what I overheard. I think you should go now. Without hesitating, Mark tugged at Matt's arm. Let us go, man. We can find out more. We have to be there for her. They sprinted through the dispersing crowd, hearing the murmurs of speculation behind them. Laura followed closely, her breath quickening as they rushed toward the hospital. The chilly night air bit at their skin, but an inner warmth flickered, fueled by the promise of hope. As they neared the hospital, the building loomed larger, a stark contrast to the soft glow of streetlights. Emergency vehicles lined the entrance, casting twisted shadows that danced on the pavement. Mark's heart quickened. Was she really okay? Would she remember anything once she woke up? Matt's breathing came in quick, shallow gasps as they stepped inside, the sterile scent of antiseptic hitting them like a cold slap. Anxiety churned in Mark's stomach, and for a moment, he felt lost in the absence of familiar surroundings. They approached the receptionist, whose calm demeanor felt oddly reassuring. Can we see Lisa Matthews? Mark asked, urgency creeping into his voice. The receptionist looked up, sadness flickering in her eyes. Please wait here. She disappeared behind a set of double doors. They stood in silence, the weight of the waiting room pressing down hard. Each tick of the clock echoed like a drumbeat, intensifying the knot in Mark's stomach. Matt, Mark began, trying to field the spiraling worry. Whatever happens, we're in this together. You're not alone. Matt nodded, lips pressed tightly together. He couldn't find the right words. the fear of losing Lisa overshadowing everything else. Moments later, the receptionist returned, her expression a medley of compassion and concern. "You can go in now." She stabilized, and the doctor will explain everything shortly. With a small sigh of relief, they maneuvered through the narrow hallway lined with faint lights. As they reached her room, Mark's heart raced once more. He peeked through the door, and there she was. Lisa lay on the hospital bed, eyes closed, connected to monitoring equipment beeping softly. Mark's breath caught. She looked fragile yet peaceful, the heavy weight of solace settling around them. But just before he could step inside, a sudden thought struck him. What if waking up changed everything? "Matt," he whispered, glancing back at his friend, in case she might not remember us right away. "What do we say?" Matt's face blanched, the weight of what lay ahead hitting him hard. We remind her that we love her." Determination surged inside them like a current. As they stepped into the room, a new understanding flashed between them. This journey wasn't just about recovery, but about rediscovering what they held dear. In that moment, Lisa's eyelids fluttered. Slightly. A spark of awareness flickered there, awakening within the depths of unconsciousness. Mark's heart leaped. Was she about to wake up? What would she say? Would she remember their friendship? The air felt electric with potential as the room held its breath, and Mark found himself wondering if they were ready for the truth of what that meant. Lisa's eyelids quivered, the soft beeping of machines marking time in the tension-filled room. Mark leaned closer, holding his breath. He could see the faint flutter of life in her face, the way her brows twitched like she was sorting through the pieces of a dream. "Lisa," he whispered, his voice trembling as he reached for her hand. Her skin felt cool against his, but he was relieved to be touching her again, to be close, just like before. Matt stepped beside him, his features a tight mask of hope and fear. "Come on, Lisa. You can do this," he murmured, almost as if he could will her awake. Time stretched, and all Mark could hear was the steady rhythm of Lisa's heart, which felt like an anchor in the storm of uncertainty. Every tick of the clock sent rivulets of anxiety racing through him. He wanted to shake off the doubt gnawing at his mind. What if she didn't remember? What if this moment, so fragile and full of promise, shattered like glass? Suddenly, her brow creased, and her lips parted slightly as if she were about to speak. Mark's heart thudded loudly in his chest. "Lisa?" he urged, his voice barely above a breath. "Please, come back to us." Matt leaned in closer. "We're right here. You're safe, Lisa. Just open your eyes." As if summoned, her eyelids lifted, and for a fluttering heartbeat, the world seemed to narrow down to just the three of them. Darkness faded, and her gaze found Mark's. There was confusion first, blankness hovering in her eyes, but then recognition flickered like a candle flame. "Mark?" she croaked, her voice a hoarse whisper, rough from disuse. Relief crashed over him like a wave, dragging him under and lifting him back up with the power of joy. "Yes, it's me, Lisa. I'm right here." He squeezed her hand tighter, terrified and desperate all at once. "Matt?" Her eyes shifted, locking onto his friend. "What happened?" "You were in an accident," Matt said, his voice thick with emotion. "You've been in the hospital, but you're okay now. Just focus on us." The uncertainty in her eyes morphed into concern. "Accident? Is everyone?" She paused, breath hitching as if she was trying to piece together the foggy remnants of her memory. "It's just you." "It's just us," Mark reassured her quickly, not wanting to overwhelm her with worry. "You're safe. We're here." But as the shadows of confusion started to clear from her eyes, a flicker of panic crossed her face. "I can't remember. Why can't I remember?" The tremor of vulnerability in her voice cut through him. "Hey," he said gently, instinctively moving closer. "It's okay. Just take a deep breath. It'll come back. We'll help you." He couldn't shake the worry curling in his gut. What if everything came rushing back, things that might hurt her? The moment hung heavily in the air, both fragile and charged with possibility. Each of them was on a precipice, balancing the weight of what Lisa might not remember. Matt reached out too, his voice steady and reassuring. "Focus on us. Who we are. What we've shared. Friends, Lisa murmured, still struggling, her brow furrowed. Good friends slowly, something lit within her, the capacity for memory trying to emerge through the fog. Yes, friends who care about you, Mark added, his heart racing again. The best kind of friends. Just then, a small smile timidly broke through the confusion, and Mark's heart soared at its brilliance. It was fleeting, but it was there, like sunshine breaking through a cloudy sky. Mark, she said slowly, you always made me laugh. He felt tears stinging his eyes, a swell of warmth surfacing at her words. And you always knew how to brighten our days, he replied, his voice thick with emotion. But before they could continue, the door swung open, and a doctor stepped in, clipboard in hand. Good news, Lisa. You're stable, but we need to do some assessments. Mark felt his heart drop, the spark of connection blurring as the harsh reality of medical procedures approached. Will she be okay? He asked, his voice laced with the stresses of the moment. Yes, but we need to monitor her closely, the doctor replied, shifting their attention. Momentarily. Just a few tests. I will update you shortly. The flickering hope began to fade again as the reality settled in. Mark faced Lisa's uncertain gaze and felt the weight of what was still at stake. As the doctor checked her vitals, Mark's mind raced about how things could change in a heartbeat. Would they be able to help her remember everything? Or would she drift away from them, lost in the shadows of forgotten memories? Don't worry, Lisa. He leaned closer. We'll be right here. And then, just as uncertainty seemed to wrap itself around them, another thought entered his mind. What secrets lurked within her memory, waiting to be rediscovered? As the doctor adjusted the machines, Mark found himself fearful of what those revelations might mean. Would they face the truth together, or would some pieces remain forever out of reach? The room filled with tension, but it was Lisa's eyes that held his attention, the depths of what she might say next stirring an avalanche of hope and fear inside him. The doctor moved away from the machines, giving Lisa room to breathe, but every second felt too long. As the beeping echoed around them, Mark kept his gaze locked on her face, searching for any signs that could give him hope. Lisa, Matt said softly, pulling back slightly. Do you remember anything from before? She frowned, biting her lip. I feel like there's something there, just out of reach. A distant look crossed her eyes, and Mark felt another wave of anxiety crash over him. It's all right, he said, trying to maintain a calm facade as his heart raced. Take your time. The connection between them felt fragile, like a spider's web glistening in the morning sun. But so much was unknown. What truths lay tangled within the memories she might not recall? A nurse entered, her cheerful demeanor a stark contrast to the gravity of the moment. Hey there, Lisa. I'm just going to take a few samples. You'll feel a little prick, but it won't hurt. Mark's grip tightened on Lisa's hand. We're right here. Just breathe through it. He admired the nurse's calmness, but his own heart thudded as if it were ready to leap from his chest. Lisa nodded, taking a deep breath as the nurse prepared the needle. I am trying, she stammered, revealing a flicker of fear as she glanced at her arm. Once the nurse finished, she smiled reassuringly. You did great. Keep up that spirit. I'll let the doctor know you're ready for the next steps. She left the room, leaving Mark and Matt to reconnect with Lisa, who wore a confused expression. Why can't I remember? She whispered, eyes wide with vulnerability. The rawness of her fear sent a pang of helplessness through Mark. We'll figure it out together, Matt promised softly. This is just a bump in the road, right? Lisa nodded slowly, her brow furrowing deeper. But what if the memories aren't good? What if it's something terrible? Mark exchanged glances with Matt, each of them feeling the weight of unspoken fears. He wanted to shield her from pain, but deep down, he knew that the truth was the only way forward. Whatever it is, we'll face it together, he assured her. You're not alone. In that moment, a flicker of gratitude crossed Lisa's face, a tiny ember of warmth cutting through the chill of uncertainty. Thank you, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Always, Mark replied, feeling the connection between them strengthen. Just as a breath of hope filled the air, the doctor returned, all business now. All right, Lisa. We need to start the cognitive tests. These will help us understand what might be going on. Are you ready? Mark took a deep breath, eyes searching Lisa S. You've got this, Lisa. Just answer what you can. We're right here. She nodded, determination surging through her as she focused on the doctor. Okay, let us do it. Mark watched as Lisa began to answer questions, her brows knitting in concentration. Each response was a step forward, but uncertainty loomed like a storm cloud. What truths would surface? As they moved forward with the tests, Lisa's expressions fluctuated between confusion and realization, the gears in her mind slowly beginning to turn. Mark's heart raced, a mix of hope and fear bubbling up within him. When the doctor finally paused, Lisa slumped back, breathing heavily. I don't know if I did well, she said, frustration evident in her voice. Hey, Matt piped in, you did amazing just by trying. We're so proud of you. Mark nodded fervently. Yeah, just remember, every little bit is progress. But everyone felt at the tenuous balance of what lay ahead. Would these small steps lead to something bigger, something beautiful, or were they peering perhaps into the shadows of the past? The door creaked open again, and the doctor stepped back in. The look on his face held a depth of seriousness that sent chills down Mark's spine. I need to speak with you all now. Mark's heart plummeted. What revelations awaited them? Would this be the moment that changed everything? As he exchanged a worried glance with Matt and Lisa, he felt a sense of urgency and fear gripping his insides. Lisa's eyes widened in anticipation, and Mark knew they were standing on the edge of something monumental. Was the truth they were seeking going to heal or hurt them? With bated breath, he awaited the words that would inevitably alter the course of their lives forever. The doctor's expression remained serious as he gestured for them to take a seat. Mark felt his heart pound in concert with the constant beep of the machines. Every second felt like an eternity. Lisa, he began, voice steady yet gentle, you've had an accident, and as a result, there are gaps in your memory. We're here to help you get through this. Lisa's eyes widened as she processed his words, emotions swirling across her face like a storm. But can I ever remember everything? The fear clung to her voice like a shadow, and Mark's heart twisted in response. It's hard to say. Memories sometimes emerge with time, the doctor reassured her, a flicker of encouragement surfacing. But some aspects may remain elusive. Mark saw Lisa's gaze dim slightly, and he leaned forward, squeezing her hand tightly. We'll stick with you through this, Lisa. We're not going anywhere. The doctor nodded affirmatively. That's essential, especially when processing traumatic events. Being surrounded by supportive friends can help tremendously. Matt clenched his jaw, the gravity of the situation weighing heavily on him. What about her physical condition? Will she be all right? Physically, she's stable for now. But mentally, she'll need time and strategy to sort through her memories. We can assist with therapy and cognitive exercises. Mark's pulse quickened. He needed to know that Lisa could recover not just her memories, but everything they loved about her spirit. How long might that take? This varies. Some patients respond quickly, others take longer. What's important is focus, encouragement, and self-compassion, the doctor explained, glancing down at his notes. Lisa's brow furrowed as she absorbed the information, her voice barely a whisper. What if it's something I don't want to remember? Many people have that fear, and it's completely normal, the doctor replied. But often, facing what we fear can lead to healing growth even. Mark could see fear warring with her determination. You're not alone, Lisa. Whatever comes up, we'll face it together. You'll never have to do this by yourself. Matt nodded vigorously. Exactly. We're your team. Remember all those wild adventures and late-night talks we had? A small smile flickered through Lisa's uncertainty, but it was tentative like sunlight barely breaking through the clouds. Mark leaned in again, his voice gentle yet firm. You still have all that potential. The world still needs you to shine. Let us face this as friends, Matt added, the sincerity flooding his words. We're in this together, no matter what. A new wave of confidence surged through the room, as if reminders of their bond hung in the air like a legacy yet to be rediscovered. For the first time, Mark felt hope blossom, faintly a connection tethered to something vibrant, something unstoppable. The doctor glanced at the clock. I'll leave you to process this for a moment. If you have any questions, my team and I will be available. Once the doctor exited, silence enveloped them, thick with the weight of what had been shared. Lisa took a deep breath, her eyes shining with unshed tears. I'm scared, guys. But I want to be whole again. Then let us start right now, Mark said enthusiastically. What memories come to mind first? She frowned in concentration, her brow creasing, and then something seemed to shift. I remember the laughter in the diner, the smell of fresh coffee, the way you both believed in me even when I didn't. Mark's heart swelled, and the memory lingered in the air between them like the warm glow of an evening sunset. It was a perfect tapestry woven by their lives, their friendship now threaded with healing possibilities. I remember, she continued slowly, my paints, the way colors could dance on a canvas. And the way you both would always encourage me to dive deeper. The joy that erupted within him felt almost sacred, profound, transforming. That's it, Lisa. Keep going. Nat joined in, excitement bubbling as well. Think about your favorite memories. Where do you see yourself painting? As Lisa ventured deeper into her recollections, each vibrant moment brought her closer to herself again. Mark watched with bated breath, captivated as laughter, colors, and love came alive, illuminating the shadows that had previously threatened to engulf them. You both were always there, she laughed softly, tears cascading down her cheeks as embers of recognition flickered in her eyes. You really believed in me. I've missed that. With those words, hope bloomed, transforming into a commitment stronger than any fear that had previously held her down. And as they shared stories, laughter bubbled and the echoes of love wrapped around them like tendrils of sunlight, gently pushing back the darkness. They created a foundation upon which new memories would be built. The possibilities seemed unbreakable, a bridge connecting each intimate moment, unearthing their past while embracing a bright future. In that hospital room, under the tender optimism stirring in the air, Mark was reminded life could shift in an instant, but standing together became a promise of resilience, of discovery that knew no bounds. As the night ebbed, the three friends leaned into each other, heartbeats aligning, in a fragile yet fierce declaration of unity. Whatever lay ahead, they would face it, empowered by courage and the rediscovery of love, a transformation that ignited the bright spirit of Lisa anew. Mark turned his gaze from her to Matt, both of them smiling with a sense of elation. Their journey had only just begun, the story unfolding and painting their lives with color once again. In that moment, Mark made a vow, a silent promise that reverberated within him like the rhythm of their hearts. Together they would weave the incredible tapestry of what was yet to come. Now it's your turn to step into this journey. Subscribe immediately to this channel so you don't miss out on the next unforgettable stories that inspire and ignite transformation. Leave a like now to fuel the algorithm and spread this story to the world. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about this ending. Your thoughts matter. And share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need a glimpse of hope and transformation. Don't wait not even one more second.